Boy, I'll tell you something. Lyle's a real whiz in physics. Boy, he can remember problems word for word he hasn't seen in years.
Remember when TV families felt like our own? The Waltons weren't just characters on a screen. They became part of our lives, a wholesome reminder of simpler times. Week after week, this heartwarming family brought us stories of love, hardship, and hope. But what became of the actors who made them unforgettable? Where are they now, 52 years later? Let's take a journey back in time and see how far they've come. John Boy, Richard Thomas. Then and now, he was the face, the voice, and the heart of the Waltons. Richard Thomas as John Boy Walton, a character seared into the memories of generations. But stepping away from such an iconic role was no small feat. After all, how do you follow up a role that defined an era in television? Well, Richard Thomas didn't just follow it up, but carved a path of versatility that took him way beyond the mountains of Walton's Mountain. Thomas's journey began much farther back than his star turn. A Manhattan-born son to ballet dancing parents, acting would seem almost preordained upon the young Richard. He began his career on the stage on Broadway, and by the time the Waltons came along in 1972, he was an old hat at performing. But the Waltons catapulted him onto different turf altogether. John Boy, with his earnest ambition to be a writer, resonated deeply with audiences who saw in him the struggles of pursuing a dream amidst the everyday challenges of life. But what happened when the Waltons ended? Did Thomas fade into the background, forever typecast as John Boy? Far from it. Richard's post-Waltons career is a testament to his range as an actor. He took on roles that shattered any lingering John Boy image. From playing darker characters like the psychotic murderer in You'll Like My Mother, to complex roles in The Americans and Tell Me Your Secrets, Thomas has proved that he can wear many hats. And then came the awards. His role as John Boy may have earned him an Emmy, but it was his body of work that cemented him as a respected name in Hollywood. He's graced the stage and screen, taking home awards for his performances in everything from The Little Foxes on Broadway to his work in miniseries like Roots, The Next Generations. But the most shocking turn his journey took was revisiting TV over recent years. His guest, starring on series like NCIS, New Orleans, and The Blacklist, did please fans, but it was his return to the Waltons universe that really made people's jaws drop. In 2021, Thomas lent his voice to the narration again for the Waltons' homecoming, reminding us all why we fell in love with his voice, both literal and metaphorical, in the first place. What's next for Richard Thomas? At 72, he is showing no signs of slowing. With a recent return to theater and upcoming TV projects, fans will be very anxious to see what role he will do next. And with the legacy of John Boy firmly intact, it would appear that Richard Thomas has balanced keeping one foot on Walton's Mountain while stepping boldly into new terrain. Olivia Walton's grace, Michael Learn's journey. She was the rock, the glue, and the tender heart of the Walton family. Olivia Walton, portrayed by the incomparable Michael Learn, embodied the only definition worthy of the word grace under pressure. But when Michael Learn chose to leave the Waltons, the question begged to be asked. Why would its matriarch leave such an iconic role at its height of success? Before she charmed audiences as Olivia, Michael Learn was already proving herself a force on the stage. Early roles in Under Milkwood and Tartuffe showcased commanding presence and striking intelligence that could not be denied. But when she landed the role of Olivia Walton in 1972, everything would change. This relative unknown brought so much heart, strength, and genuineness to Olivia that she became an overnight sensation. Olivia Walton was more than a mother. She was the soul of this television series, a representation of the show's heart and moral compass. But behind the scenes, Learn struggled with the demands of playing such a beloved character. A fiercely independent and ambitious actress, she didn't want to be bound to just one role. Following 7 seasons playing Olivia, she made that painful choice to leave the Waltons. A move that baffled many viewers. Michael was ready to move on and tackle new challenges, and challenge herself she did. Since leaving the Waltons, Learned has not blanched at undertaking work that stretched her dramatic range. She drew critical acclaim for the medical drama Nurse, and even took an Emmy Award home for her starring role as tough but caring Nurse Mary Benjamin. Learned's portrayal in Nurse showed she was capable of playing a character with the same nurturing qualities as Olivia, but with a modern edginess. Aside from Nurse, she was part of quite a few other projects, including Hot House, Living Dolls, and many more that proved her ease slipping into dramatic and comedic roles alike. Her ability wasn't strictly relegated to one genre, and post-Waltons, her career seemed to work hard to prove just that. But acting was not all that was on Learned's mind. Lately, she has focused her attentions more and more on theater work, revisiting her roots in the theater in highly acclaimed performances of such plays as Driving Miss Daisy and The Outgoing Tide. Today, at 85 years young, Michael Learned remains vigorous and working with new roles. Recently, during an interview, she let slip a stunning personal attainment close to her heart: over 40 years of sobriety. She has spoken candidly about her addiction to alcoholism and how this turned into one of her biggest conquests. This has only raised the bar regarding respect toward her as both an actor and as a person. As for her legacy, Olivia Walton remains one of the most cherished characters in television history, and Michael Learned continues to inspire both with her career and personal resilience. And even though her departure from the Waltons may have left us with questions, her life's journey has certainly provided all the answers. Grandma Walton's wisdom, Ellen Corby's impact. She may have played the feisty and no-nonsense Grandma Walton, but wrapped within Ellen Corby's tough exterior was a woman full of compassion, wit, and wisdom. The way Corby portrayed Grandma Walton is forever memorable, and equally compelling had been her road to becoming America's grandmother. The career of Ellen Corby, prior to her donning the shoes of Esther Walton, had been far from what it would eventually become. Born in 1911, Ellen started in Hollywood as a script assistant, toiling behind the scenes on a number of films before catching the acting bug. It is very correct to say that any journey that saw her into the limelight was not easy. Corby spent a number of years working in small parts and minor roles, struggling to make a name for herself. It seemed as though she would never break into the big leagues for quite some time. But with persistence and love for her craft, it wasn't long before Ellen's big break came along when she landed the role in I Remember Mama, which landed her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Along came The Waltons. Cast as the apparently stern Grandma Walton, Ellen Corby took what could have been a one-dimensional character and created from her a powerhouse of wisdom, love, and humor. With her sharp tongue and deep love for her family, Grandma Walton fast became a fan favorite. Corby's performance was so good that she won 3 Emmy Awards for her work on the show, firmly cementing her place in TV history. But the impact of Ellen Corby went way over and beyond the awards. Off-screen, she was a mentor to many of the younger cast members, most especially Richard Thomas, the actor who played John Boy Walton. Her nurturing seemed to have carried off-screen, with many fellow actors attesting to how she often gave her advice and guidance, much like Grandma Walton to her family. And Corby's legacy as a mentor and role model lives on, even to this day among actors. But then, if her career milestones were anything to go by, it was in the latter years of her life that Corby showed resilience. In 1976, she suffered a debilitating stroke that left her with speech difficulties and partially paralyzed. Many people thought this would mark the end of her time on the Waltons, but Corby was not about to say goodbye. She struggled through rehab and returned to the series, incorporating that real-life stroke into Grandma Walton's storylines. The fact that she fought her way back made her even more dear to audiences. Ellen Corby died in 1999, but she left an indelible mark on television, and the memory of Grandma Walton endures. Her Paul gruff but loving grandmother was an inspiration to this day, and there can be no doubt that generations of actors to come will continue to show traces of Corby's influence. Corby's wisdom both in front of and behind the camera stands in perpetual reminder that the strength of a character comes not just from words, but from the heart. And Ellen Corby's heart was pure gold. Eric Scott's life beyond the show. Ben Walton, the ambitious and sometimes headstrong second youngest Walton sibling, always pushed boundaries in search of adventure. But what about the actor behind the character? Did Eric Scott continue to push those same boundaries in his real life? Eric Scott launched his acting career as a young boy, and for all intents and purposes of most child stars, his early career was heavily typecast with the role on The Waltons. Certainly Ben's entrepreneurial spirit made him one of the more memorable characters on the show, and Scott brought a charming, relatable, and sometimes even ornery personality to Ben. He really came across as the classic middle child, always trying to prove himself, always thinking bigger. Whereas Ben Walton was all about running a business and making a name, once the Waltons wrapped up, Eric Scott's path went completely the other way. This strangely makes Scott's surprising decision. He retired from acting after the series wrapped in 1981. Unlike many of his co-stars who pursued further careers in Hollywood, Eric decided to leave the limelight behind and get into an absolutely different industry. He started working for a parcel delivery company, which subsequently led him to a management position in logistics. Quite different from the life he played on screen, Eric welcomed the change with the same determination his character Ben was known for. Today, Eric Scott is still involved in the business world, but he remains tied with the show that brought him to household names. He still attends Walton's reunions and remains friends with many of his former cast members. Likewise, in interviews, he has spoken about the appreciation he has for that role, which gave him the household name, but also he talked about how content he felt with the quieter, more stable life he built post-acting life. Now the question is, whatever happened to him in life? You simply won't believe where Eric Scott is now. Let's just say he may not be running a sawmill like Ben, but he found success in his own manner. Jim Bob Walton, David W. Harper's quiet life. The dreamer of the family's sons was Jim Bob Walton, the youngest. Lost in his own world with machines and airplanes flying through the skies, Jim Bob always looked to the sky. But what became of David W. Harper, who portrayed the imaginative character? David Harper's time on The Waltons paralleled his character's growth from a boy full of wonder to a young man finding his place in the world. As Jim Bob, Harper was endearing, earnest, and always hopeful for something more. But just like his character, Harper's life after The Waltons took a turn not many saw coming. Once the show wrapped, he came to that same crossroads many child actors do: continue in Hollywood or step away from the spotlight. Harper opted for the latter. Since a handful of minor acting parts following The Waltons, he has since quietly retired from the entertainment business. Unlike other co-stars, Harper wasn't intimidated by fame and fortune in Hollywood. In fact, he truly loved living under the radar in private, modest means. He has remained completely out of the public eye since then, which only raises more curiosity about his post-Waltons life. But here's the kicker. Even though he has kept a low profile, he has not altogether rejected his Waltons roots. He has periodically attended reunions among the cast and at conventions, at which he has been embraced by the same kinds of fans who still keep Jim Bob near and dear to their hearts. Harper has since gone on to pursue a degree in business and enjoys a quiet life far from the craziness of Hollywood. You may think it's one of retreat, but it's more like one of quiet triumph. Far from the cameras, he found fulfillment. And though he moved away from Hollywood, he never left the hearts of Walton's fans. So what does Harper do today? Keep reading to be surprised by his life today. Erin Walton, Mary Elizabeth McDonough's transformation. She was all grace, beauty, and strength as Erin Walton, but little did the cameras capture the real-life story of survival. Mary Elizabeth McDonough played the role of the beloved middle Walton daughter and experienced the highs and lows of being famous, but also battled personal challenges that make her an inspiring figure today. From the Waltons onward, Mary's acting career would blossom in the public eye, but the rest of her life took some unexpected turns. As Erin was navigating her way through young adulthood on screen, McDonough was making her way out of the iconic role into the world where she would be facing pressures of Hollywood. Since The Waltons, Mary has appeared in several TV movies and guest appearances, but the famousness that came with being an actor brought deep struggles. Behind her bright smile, McDonough was suffering from severe health complications emanating from the silicone implants she had acquired in the 1980s. In a bid to fill in the requirements of Hollywood's beauty, Mary had undergone a procedure that would later become an extensive and tense fight with sickness. Her struggle with autoimmune diseases became the highlight of her personal life and eventually led her into the advocacy of women's health awareness. But instead of letting those battles define her, McDonough used those painful times as a platform to inspire others. She has written the book Lessons from the Mountain: What I Learned from Erin Walton, in which she opens her heart to the pressure of being a young actress, her health issues, and her search for self-acceptance. Now, Mary has stepped into a new role: motivational speaker and advocate, helping others learn from her experiences. Most recently, McDonough has devoted time to writing and activism, moving hundreds with her no-holds-barred story. Actress into activist, that in and of itself is nothing less than a miracle. And there's more. Her latest projects and life's work continue to empower women everywhere. Stay tuned as you hear how McDonough's resilience transformed her into a voice of strength and compassion. Jason Walton, John Walmsley's musical journey. As Jason Walton, John Walmsley's character was never off the screen without a guitar in his hands, and it seems his love of music wasn't entirely an act. In real life, Walmsley's post-Waltons career hit all the right notes, as his musical journey took him to some very unlikely places. Even before joining the cast of The Waltons, Walmsley had a natural flair for music. Playing Jason wasn't really a stretch, considering Walmsley was a musician proficient with many instruments from an early age. The show's use of his character songwriting and performing was actually lifted from Walmsley himself. However, when The Waltons ended, it didn't consign Walmsley into the annals of television history. Instead, he transitioned out into the music business. After the show, Walmsley went on to work with some of the biggest names in the business and worked alongside legends such as the Beach Boys and Merle Haggard. It was Walmsley's ability to fit into any genre in music that made him a highly active session player, and he was able to forge an impressive career because of the versatility he brought with the guitar. Yet, this did not stop here for Walmsley, as he went on to compose and perform music for both television and films, continuing his journey into different artistic avenues. While music has always formed the core of his career, Walmsley's latest venture brings his journey full circle. His return to being a singer-songwriter has been both nostalgic and refreshing for his fans. But here is the kicker. His latest project is not all about the music. It's about honoring the legacy of the Waltons. In 2020, Walmsley released an album that gave a nod to his time on the show, which married the folk and country influences that made Jason Walton so unforgettable. As Walmsley continues to forge ahead in his musical journey, the fact remains that his story can certainly act as a testimony that passion can survive. Curious about what comes next for this multi-gifted musician? Stay tuned. Walmsley's musical journey is not quite over yet. Elizabeth Walton. Kami Cotler's life as an educator. A young Elizabeth Walton was the youngest in the Walton clan, and captured hearts with her wide-eyed innocence and infectious personality. However, the actress who played Elizabeth found her calling far from limelight. What Kami Cotler did after the Waltons will certainly be an interesting story of transformation and devotion. When she was a girl, literally, Cotler started with her stint on the Waltons in front of millions of viewers. Elizabeth added a certain warmth and sense of adventure into the family dynamic, and Cotler became a household name. But come the time for the end, Cotler began to wonder if acting was her lifelong passion. Instead of continuing her road to success in Hollywood, she decided to take a different route by leaving the entertainment world. He opted for education over fame, and Cotler went back to school, earning a degree in social sciences, and later devoting his life to teaching. She didn't just stop at being a teacher, but an advocate for community education and an educational leader in her own right. She furthered this by serving as the principal of a charter school, incorporating her teaching talents with her drive to make a change in children's lives. No longer an actress, Cotler still is close to her Waltons family, along with doing many reunions and other types of fan events for such a show that brings back so many memories. Fans love how she transitioned from actress into an educator because she was indeed an inspiration both on and off the screen. What's more inspiring is the fact that Cotler continues giving back to her community, using her platform to advocate for better education systems and promoting a culture of learning. But what is Cotler working on lately? Wait until you hear how she's causing waves outside of the Waltons. Rose Burton. When Rose Burton entered the Walton family's life, she became the new dimension of warmth and stability that dearly loved Peggy Rhea had been offering throughout her long and phenomenal TV career. But what a lot of people may not know is that Rhea had been gracing television screens long before her Waltons days, and her impact upon the entertainment world is anything but quiet. Before she became Rose, Peggy Rhea was one of those faces that one grew accustomed to seeing on television. She could have been seen in some of the most iconic series during the middle of the 20th century. Her career started in the 1950s, where she appeared in such shows as I Love Lucy and The Doris Day Show. With her comic timing and nurturing character, Rhea had an innate ability for these motherly roles, going time and time again into family-oriented series. It wasn't until the Waltons, however, that she found a role that would ingrain itself into audiences for generations. After Ellen Corby's health challenges, she stepped in as Rose and blended perfectly into the Walton family. She was just that comforting presence for viewers. She played her portrayal so endearingly that Rose became an integral part of the latter seasons of the show, providing much levity and wisdom. But Rhea didn't stop there. Following her work on the Waltons, she went on to other prominent roles, including her memorable turns on Step by Step and Grace Under Fire. What sets Rhea apart from many of her peers is not just the length of her career, but her ability to bring warmth and depth to every character she portrayed. Her work spanned decades, yet she left behind a legacy of characters that still resonate today. But beyond the laughter in the roles, Peggy Rhea's personal life held a touching and quiet dignity that made her even more beloved by those who knew her. From John Boy's wisdom to Grandma Walton's heart, the cast of the Waltons has given us more than just memories. They've become part of our lives. Which moment from the series still holds a special place in your heart? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're curious about other classic TV families, stay tuned for more deep dives into Hollywood's most iconic shows. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more nostalgia-filled content.